What's going on, everybody? Guys, I got a little something to tell you today. We want to share something with y'all about Grazon. What is Grazon? Let's get to it. Hey guys, so we see these big beautiful fields like we have all around here. You know, they're just beautiful. And as you can tell through this video, we have all these beautiful fields and they're covered with cows, horses, sheep, goat, or they're growing hay, alfalfa, corn, and other things used to feed our livestock or even to bed our livestock with. And there's got to be something that they're not telling us. So what is that thing that they're not telling us? But here's the few things that they don't tell you. What they don't tell you is Grazon, right? What is Grazon? Well, Grazon is a herbicide, okay, for all, I mean, it is herbicide, but it's restricted to broadleaf and some woody things, right? Now, and I've got a list here. It also goes under the name of tricloperid, piclorum, Aminopyralid, okay? You hear a lot of people talk about Aminopyralid herbicides, okay? So that's what it is. It's an Aminopyralid herbicide. Grazon herbicide is a restricted use herbicide produced by the Dow Agro Science. All right, so it's used to control, the chemical is used to control herbaceous weeds and some woody plants without killing desirable lawn and turf grasses or things like hay, alfalfa, corn, straw, those types of things. That's why it's used in the farm community, right? And so while the Aminopyralid or Grazon might be good for corn and hay and alfalfa, straw, those types of things, it's horrible for us because what it does is it kills broad-leafed plants. Well, just about everything we grow is a broad-leaf plant outside of corn, right? So it kills all of our Swiss chars, it kills all of our, you know, cabbages and our tomatoes and our squashes and all that good stuff, right? It kills everything. So what we're left with after it kills it all is nothing. Again, you know, it's basically used by farmers to spray their hay and their alfalfa fields, their straw fields, and their corn fields to keep out unwanted vegetation that usually shows up due to bird droppings or some other bird droppings is poop, okay, or some other natural intervention, right? The wind blowing it in or something like that, right? Some other kind of natural thing has happened. Or they go into an area, they cleared it off, which could be in some cases around here. They cleared off the area and it was full of, you know, invasive species, multifloral rose and things like that that shouldn't even be here in America anyhow. And what they did is they cleared it off for pasture land, or they cleared it off to farm or use for grazing, or you know, for the production of hay, straw, wheat, those things. And they used Grazon or Aminopyralid to help kind of keep it cleared off, or to clear it off and let that crop take over, right? And now they don't want anything else on there. I mean, in a way, I can understand it, because it would be hard to take these huge fields that we've shown in the video already. I wish he would shut up. It would be hard to take those huge fields and try to pull weeds out of them. I mean, when essentially, you know, you're growing weeds anyhow. Horse farmer, or horse people, I don't really know how you would say that. Horse farmers, horse people, I don't. They really want the best, and they are probably one of the most noted people to use Grazon, or to purchase hay or things that have had Grazon used on it. And that's not knocking horse people. That's just saying that maybe they could use something that is a little bit better of a product without the Grazon effect or the Aminopyralid effect, right? And so, like I was saying, they spray it on there, and it kills out things that are broadleaf. So all this stuff here in my yard, this wouldn't live, okay? None of that right there would be alive. All right, it kills it all off. All right, and it does that so that it doesn't take over, and their beautiful field full of lush favorite snacks of your livestock, all right, can graze on it. But there's another problem that goes even deeper into that, right? And here's where it becomes a problem for us as consumers of products. So what Grazon can do to your garden? Well, guys, it will absolutely destroy your garden. I mean, absolutely run through it, destroy it. You'll have nothing left but remnants of plants. And good soil to grow hay or alfalfa. Is that really necessary? You see, he used to not do that until Tom passed away. Tom passed away, and now he does that. Anyhow, what Grazon could do to your garden, well, like I said, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty bad. It's not new news that Grazon is an absolutely destructive chemical compound that devastates gardens every year to unknowing customers that buy from big box stores, right? As well as those that buy compost locally, or even make their own compost without knowing where or how the alfalfa, hay, corn, or other feed that they feed their animals, or the bedding, you know, that they use, without ever knowing that it's being poisoned with Grazon. In other words, you're going to the store and you're buying stuff from the big box stores. You've seen the bag. Everybody knows that bag. I'm not knocking that bag. I've not had a bad issue with that brand, okay? I'm not going to name that brand because last year I used it and it worked well for me. And I will not talk bad about a product that has worked well for me unless it continues to work well for me. However, in this ever so crazy world that we live in, I have ran into people who have said, Ryan, don't you dare use that stuff ever again because blah, 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 blah. Which made me research and find out about Aminopyralid. Okay, and it also brought to my attention that some of these places, while it's not in every bag, some of the places that they buy their stuff from use Aminopyralids, otherwise Grazon, and then they put it into their compost mix or their manure mixes. I get off of that. And because they've used it in their compost or their manure mixes, they have the Grazon in it, and then your plants are affected by the Grazon that's in there. Probably wondering, how does Grazon work then, right? You're like, well, I need to know, right? So let's kind of give you a rundown. All right. We'll go and we'll buy all this stuff that's been poisoned with Grazon, because I'm going to get to this point. And we'll apply bag after bag of this stuff from the big box store on our garden. We'll even go and buy dump truck loads of compost on our, from our local grower, or from our local compost place, or farmer that's using, making his own compost and stuff. And we'll buy this compost and we'll use it on our beds. We'll also, like us here, we make our own compost as well. So not only do we buy compost that we have finished out, that you guys have seen already on the channel that we use, we also make our own compost, right? Now, here's where it gets tricky. If I don't know where or who grew that food, alfalfa, hay, whatever I'm feeding my animals, corn, okay? If I don't know where it came from, and I take the loose stuff, right? The stuff that they don't eat, like the goats don't eat all the hay I give them. That'll get composted. The chickens don't eat all the hay, or they don't always kick it all and make it all into dirt. What I do give them that goes into their bedding, right? So, because I use hay and or straw for their bedding, so they don't always just turn into dirt right there in that spot. And I rake it up and I put it into compost. Same thing with like the pig manure. The pig manure they get fed some hay. They also get hay and stuff like that used for bedding. And they get fed corn. And here's the thing. I don't always know exactly where everything came from, right? Like, I just don't. And so without knowing or asking, right, you don't know what you're getting, right? You don't know if Grazon was used to produce that crop. And here's where the problem lies. Because then what happens is the animals are fed the hay, the alfalfa, the corn, whatever, right? Or their bedding is used, right? Straw or hay or whatever, right? And here's where it gets bad. Like you see down here in the chicken coop. I have a lot of hay, and sometimes it's straw, sometimes it's hay. It's just whatever I have the most of, I use it because it works, right? And I like hay a little bit better for chicken bedding, but that's for a different video. But you can see all this hay. Well, all this hay gets down in here, right? And they'll kick it and scratch it, and you can see the progression of it. See how it gets littler and littler and littler and littler. And it just kind of goes to basically nothing, right? Turns to dirt, composts in there itself. Well, all this big, heavy, thick stuff that's in there, I'll rake all that up and I'll put it in a compost pile. Well, if I don't know where that straw came from that's in these two black bins right there, right, or the hay that's in everywhere else, I don't know where that stuff come from, then all I'm going to do is take all that hay that could be, and straw, that could be Grazon, just plumb ate up with Grazon. Get away from there. And I could be applying that to my compost pile. Same thing down here with the pigs. The corn that they eat, or the hay that they eat, or the goats' hay or whatever. When I go to rake all that up and put it in my compost bin or my worm bin, right, I am not going to know whether it's been affected by Grazon or not. And I'll take that and I'll compost it, and then I'll put it down on my soil, say like this cantaloupe patch right here, okay? I'll put it in there unknowing that it has been contaminated with this evil stuff, all right? And then the only time I'm going to have a problem is whenever my plants start to die and I can't get them to grow. Then comes the next problem, right? Which is people consistently do this, think that they overfed, overwatered, something isn't right. They never ever guess, think to guess. Kids are dangerous. What? Yeah. Anyways, they never think to check on any of the compost. They automatically think it's something they did wrong, and it's not. It's nothing they did wrong. In fact, the only thing they did wrong was what we're going to talk about here in just a minute. And so the bad part is, after doing all that they've done, spending all the money to buy the bags from the big box stores, to buy the dump truck loads full of compost, or to compost it themselves, and all the work they've done up to that point, or all the money they've spent up until that point. All right, to only go in further and spend more money, right, on plants at the nurseries, or on seeds and the things that it takes to start their own plants, and the labor that they do that gets the plants ready to plant, right, and everything it takes to get a plant ready to be in your garden and growing. All of that ends up, if you do all that work and all that time, and all it is for nothing, because your plants are planted in something that has been contaminated with Grazon or Aminopyralid, right, then you're out. You're out of the time, you're out of the money. And I think the time is probably the most frustrating one, because you can't get the time back. Money is horrible to lose, but when you've lost all that time, or that whole spring or summer that you've labored and tried to get a garden to grow, only to not get it to grow. Homesteaders, we work too hard to not, and we rely too much on our garden and stuff for us to not be successful. So have crop failure, we're up the creek without a paddle, so to speak, because there's nothing to fall back on. I mean, yes, we can go to the store, but we might as well be eating Grazon when we go to the store, because that food is contaminated with all sorts of nastiness, right, that we don't really want to ingest in our bodies on a daily basis. So we want our garden to thrive. Well, if we've got contamination, we're not going to thrive. And that is what the problem is. So how do we fix this problem? All right, well, one way to fix the problem is to be very cautious of where you get your items from, whether it's the manure, the compost, or even the food and bedding for your animals. And by doing this, you can have some control over this issue. I say some, as it's not foolproof, and it's not. It is not foolproof. Just because you know where it's coming from, right? And you're cautious of where you're buying it, and you've asked questions, all right? It's not foolproof. Here's why. Businesses are known to lie and put their blame on something else other than the products, as that would be really bad for business. Do you think that anyone from any of these big box stores are ever going to admit that they got manure or something that they've put in their compost that has been contaminated with Grazon, okay, or Aminopyralid? Do you think any of them are ever going to admit and fess up to, yes, we have one place down in Florida that we get, manure from, and that manure has been known to be contaminated with Aminopyralid because the farmer that feeds his cattle, the stuff they graze on, is literally used or grown with Grazon, right? No, they're not going to admit that, because admitting that would be admitting guilt, and they're not going to admit that they did anything wrong. Also, some local compost places may not always know, whether it was or wasn't treated, right, with Grazon. And thus cannot say 100% certain that it's Grazon free. So unless these guys are growing it themselves, or they're close to the person that they're getting the manure from, or they're getting the composted items from, like the throwaway hay, straw. You get out of my garden. Get out of there right now, Malachi. Malachi Asher, you know better than that. So again, what I was saying is they're not going to know unless they know that they're not using Grazon on their own stuff. They're not going, or they know the person personally that they're getting their manure or their, whatever from, right? The bedding or whatever they've got. They're not going to know for certain unless they know those people that it's not being used with Grazon. Or if they ask, they may not be told the truth. And here's why: because farmers want to make as much money as they can, so they sell everything they can. And I'm not saying all farmers are like this. Don't get me wrong. Not all farmers, I want to just kind of put that in there, are like that. But there are those that are quick to try to turn a buck. And if you go and say, hey, is there Aminopyralid in this? Is there Grazon in this? Or any chance that there could be? If they're going to miss out on $50 or $100, nope. Well, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. And they could very well know. So you kind of got to know your source, and you got to trust them, right? Here's the other thing. You also got to trust and believe, all right? Are the people that you buy your hay, alfalfa, corn, and other food sources from for your livestock, also your bedding for your livestock. You've got to be so confident that they are telling you the absolute truth when it comes to there's no Aminopyralid in this, there has been no Grazon used in this, right? Like, to the point that you would be willing to put it in your garden and go from there, right? No checking, no nothing. You got to trust them to the point you know you could take that straight from them, straight to your garden, put it in, and walk away, and no damage be done. That's how much I think you should trust the person before you don't do this next step. Is that next step? Well, the next step is fairly simple, right? What can you do to ensure that your plants are not going to be affected by Aminopyralid, otherwise known as Grazon? Okay, well, here it is. To the best of your ability, this is what you need to do. For one, ask everyone about everything, okay? Ask before you buy it, and if they cannot give you an answer that day, try to hold off on buying any products if you possibly can until they answer the question about the Grazon, okay? I know that might not be, I don't know, possible for some of you all. You know, some of y'all have a lot of livestock, and but here's what I would say. Don't wait until you need it to find out about it, right? So if you're composting your feed for your chickens, ducks, pigs, horses, goats, sheep, whatever, if you're composting that, don't wait until you need food to ask your supplier about the Grazon. Go on ahead and ask them now. Say, hey, I've watched this video about Grazon. I would like, or Aminopyralid. I would like to know if you use Grazon or Aminopyralid on any of your products, whether it's your corn, your hay, your alfalfa, all those things that are not broadleafed plants, okay? If they say yes, that they use Grazon, Aminopyralid on any of their stuff, my suggestion to you is to take everything you've composted and just put it on your lawn and let it be. Or throw it over in the woods and just let it sit, okay? I think it's got a shelf life of 2+ years that it could live in that, so you ain't even gonna want to grow in it. And I don't know that I would ever want to grow in it, to be honest with you. I don't know that I would ever want to grow in something that had Aminopyralid in it. Even if it did grow, I believe your growth would be severely stunted, even at the point of it being past its shelf life. I do believe it would severely stunt your plants and hamper them. They would not grow to their best abilities, right? Until the complete effects wore off. And that could be, 10, 20, 30 years. Who knows, right? So go on ahead and ask your supplier for your food. If you're composting your own stuff from your feeds and stuff and from your beddings, go on ahead and ask, do you use it on the straw? Do you use it on the hay, alfalfa, corn, etc.? If the answer is yes, then just start changing up. Change your products, right? Or don't compost it. One of the two. Second option, all right, is if you've already bought piles of compost, all right, or you've already bought bags of compost, right? Like down here, I've already got bags and bags of compost, okay? What you can do is take that bag, take a handful out of each bag, right? Label them, label the bag, label the cup, okay? What you do is you take a bag of stuff, label it 1 through however many, okay? And then label your cups 1 through however many, all right? As you've done that, what you can do is go on ahead and plant something in it. You can plant it by seed, or if you have some small transplants, go ahead and put some small transplants in it and see if it will grow in that compost or in that manure, whichever one it is, okay? Now, if they live, then you're good to go. If they die, or they wilt, or they start looking funky, okay, compared to the other ones, right? Let's say you got one that's looking good and a bunch of the rest of them are looking bad, or you got one that's looking bad and a bunch of the rest of them are looking good. You can do a couple other checks. Maybe it's the plant, maybe it's the stuff, right? If it's in large compost, like dump truck loads, it would be more likely that you would have one doing good and a bunch of them doing bad. And that would kind of suggest Aminopyralid. If you're doing it by the bag method, it would be more likely that you would have one bad one and a bunch of good ones, right? And then that one bag be the one that's bad. However, you could have a bad plant. And in that spirit of just making sure before you draw assumptions, here's what you can do. So what you can do is, if you've got one that's looking kind of rough, right, you could just simply take and pull that one up, label a new cup, and plant another plant in there. Maybe even a different variety, or whatever, right? Just kind of check and see, right? And if it does good in that cup, then more than likely you're good and it was just the plant. Plants are finicky as well. Some plants do good, some plants will not, okay? It's just, they're all individuals. And that's the truth. Plants are individuals too. And so you may have a good one, you may have a bad one. And to avoid being assumptive and, well, I did this, so it's got to be Grazon, just to back up your claim, try another cup out of the same bag, label it, and try either the same variety or maybe even a different variety to see if, in fact, it also is bad. And then you can kind of say, well, I've tried, it's not worked, obviously it's bad. And then, last but not least, what you can do is you can always have it tested. If, let's say, you are a little leery, you've bought it, you watched the video, you say, this makes me think, and I'm a little leery. I just want to know, maybe you're getting semi-decent results, or maybe you're having a little bit of mixed review on it, right? Maybe some of the plants are doing good, some of them aren't, and you're unsure if it's you or if it's the soil. My suggestion to you is get it tested. Send it off, get it tested by either your local university's extension office, which I'm sure they do soil tests and soil analysis, so I'm sure they could find out whether there was Grazon used in it or not. You could call your local extension and find out, and they would tell you whether or not they can or can't. The next thing that I would do is call an actual soil, place, soil testing facility, I guess is what you would call it. Western Labs or something of the sort, right? And see what they say about it. See if they can test it first, and then if they can, send it to them, have it tested, and you should know if you're good or not, right? Because they'll usually ask for a decent amount, and you can get some good answers from there. But yeah, that's really all you can do, is just make sure you ask the questions. Make sure you're comfortable with the answer, right? And if you're not comfortable with the answer, don't be comfortable with using the product. That's my best advice. If you're not comfortable with the answer, then don't be comfortable with the product, because it usually your gut instinct will tell you yay or nay, right? And or here's another option I didn't think about. Say it's a local place. Well, in fact, I stepped right over one. Let's go back and backtrack for a second. If you are using this stuff and you've already bought your hay, you've already bought your feed and stuff. Let's go back to that point. You've already bought it. It's already there at your home. You're using it actively, and you don't know if it's got Grazon in it or not. You don't know if it's been, poisoned with it. What you can do is, go and scrape up some of it, right? And then scrape up some of the excrement, the poo, okay, from your animals, your goats or your rabbits or, horses, cows, pigs, whatever. Lightly compost it, or maybe just mix it into some good dirt that is good dirt, and plant something in it, right? And see if it dies. If it dies, then it's been affected by Aminopyralid. If it doesn't die, then you're probably good. But what I was going to say before that is, if you're still kind of, I don't know, and it's a local compost guy, right? What you could do is you could say, hey, I'm interested in the compost. I want X amount, but I don't know, and maybe, and this is only if their answer is unsure of. If you're not comfortable with the answer, but it's the only place with compost in your area and you need the compost, then what you could say is, hey, could you give me a sample quart of your dirt, okay, so that I could test a plant out on it? And if it turns out that I like the results from that quart of dirt on my sample plant, I'm going to buy X amount from you, blah, 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 right? So you could also ask that. I don't see anybody telling you, well, no, you can't have a quart of dirt. You know what I mean? Because they could literally get a quart bag and give it to you, and you would know from that 1 quart bag whether or not they got, Grazon in there or not, right? So those are the tips, those are the tricks, those are the things that I would do if I was worried about Grazon. That's what Grazon is. It is something that's very serious, something that needs to be talked about more, something that needs to be explored more, something that people needed to point the finger to the big box stores, that they, as the consumers link to the product, they need to be asking the questions, okay? And if they find out, like if Lowe's or Home Depot, Walmart, whatever, even your mom and pop stores that sell bags of compost, right? If they're selling it, they need to be asking the hard questions of, from the supplier, is this Grazon, contaminated, or is it free of aminopyralids? And how certain are you that it is completely free, or, completely free of aminopyralids? Are you very certain or not too certain, right? That should be the job of the big box stores and all those that are involved on whether or not they have stuff that has got aminopyralids in it or not, right? Like, they should be finding out for us so that we don't have to ask. That's just my thought. That's just my take on it. And yeah, guys, so that's what aminopyralids are. That is what Grazon is. I hope you learned something from the video today, guys. There's going to be another video that I'm shooting directly after this that will be posted up hopefully tonight from the past 3 days that I've been working on. So, guys, we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you tomorrow right here in the hollers and hills of West Virginia.
Don't forget to smash that like button. Hit that notification bell. Don't forget to share.
Thank you, good sir.
You're welcome. And subscribe.